of modern civilization, there are two revolutionary breakthrough points, such as the appearance of pedestrian Homo sapiens and the appearance of horsemen. So, let's go back to the time when the first domesticated horse appeared, and the reason behind it.
My most recent work has been on the analysis of some of the bones of horses from the Bataille culture, and in particular, we have identified two areas of the skeleton which are very important for identifying domestication. The first of these is the lower leg bone from the front of the horse, and what we have found is that the bones of wild horses are shorter and wider. They're more stocky in appearance, and domestic horses in prehistory in Kazakhstan appear to be longer and thinner bones. We also know that those horses had been ridden because we saw what we call bit wear on the horse's mouth. The bit of a horse
even then, leaving alone that they were riding horses that were tamed, saddled, and very accustomed to the bow tie man. This is a phenomenal discovery and revelation. This further means that ancient bow tie people, our ancestors, knew the secrets of selection and were congenial creators of high technologies and genetic engineering.
Can say that man at the time was certainly managing his horse as a domesticated animal, had a very close relationship with them. He could sit down with them, he could milk them, and produce milk, and was clearly consuming it, as we've seen evidence of milk processing, horse milk processing in the pottery.
discredits the myths of the present and restores the reality of the past. And so the myth is replaced with the truth.
and it also means that it was a valuable resource which was being used and part of their